elites. So these are the elites leading up to the bosses. Increase health and damage to bring them more in line with expedition difficulty enemies, even though they're open world. This is with the change noted in general AI. Increase damage of them all by 12 to 17%. Increase health of elite plus AI, the big ogres, bears, by 60%. That's a lot. I don't like 60%. It's going to make it much more of a pain to solo. But these are the non-elites. So the bears are way more tanky. Okay? Increase health and damage of world and arena bosses to bring them more in line with expedition difficulty enemies. Increase boss damage by 20% and boss health by 33%. That's a fair amount. So they're tougher. Okay. Increase damage of all expedition AI by 13%. So all expeditions do more damage. Wasn't too noticeable. I mean, it was fine on at least this low tier one. Alright, here's some notable bug fixes. Players may no longer transfer boss status effects back to the boss through use of contagious reverse stab perk. Oh, that would have been cool. Right? With the sword, it's a sword. Whatever buff you have or debuff you have, give it back to the an enemy. You can no longer do that. Okay? That's interesting. Resolve several leashing bugs that allow players to kill AI from unreachable positions. No more cheese. We will test this. But this means no more cheese. I've been cheesing things with the life staff for years. We may no longer be able to do so. Resolve a bug preventing dynasty trainees from damaging the player. Okay. Bunch of changes to all the expedition. In the depths, fixed an issue that caused the mines to not be destroyed when he is interrupted, and fixed an issue that caused him to skip phases if pulled to the room entrance. Okay, so just general bug fixes, I think. Garden of Genesis, allowing her to throw a boulder on herself and take heavy damage in phase 3. Ooh, wow, that's cool. Well, it's fixed. So you could insta-kill her, basically, in phase 3. Starstone fixed an issue that caused her Undying Army spawner to not despawn when she dies. Lazarus, phase 3 beam attack to not correctly end after the target had been down. Okay. Tune damage volumes for a more consistent player experience. So phase 3 is when the beam doesn't stop. Maybe it's supposed to now, if someone dies. Not completely sure if it was intended or not. Combat. This is what we want to know. The PvP scaling has now been reduced. The level difference will matter more in your encounters, meaning it will take more hits for a lower level player to kill a higher level player, and less hits for a higher level player to kill a lower level player. Maybe there's a little bit of scaling left, but it's not that much. It does suck when a high level kills a bunch of low levels. But you know what sucks more? Is when a couple of low levels or one low level can be just as strong as a high level with good gear. Right? That just feels terrible. So as much as it sucks to be low level and be beaten up, then unflag and go level. Right? Or go to another zone. And then eventually everyone will be level 60 with relatively the same gear, and that's when the real PvP and the PvP that matters will happen. I understand why people add it into the game, and I understand it makes a more enjoyable experience for people leveling up. But the problem is the people that sit there, figure out the numbers, and find out if I use a crappy weapon at level 30, I can do just as good as as a level 60 in legendaries. So that's why you have to be very, very careful with it. And we saw that. We saw some people with low levels being able to destroy people at high levels. Attribute threshold bonus. Reduced Constitution 250 attribute threshold bonus damage reduction from 80% to 60%. But did we fix the part where it was only being triggered by magic? And this was crazy. You were unkillable because of a feature where it wouldn't trigger, wouldn't go on cooldown. So you always had that 80%, or you always had that 60%. So we'll see if that's fixed. Reduced Warhammer hardened steel damage reduction from 20 to 15. Okay. The sword, lots of good changes. Alright, sword. Freeing Justice passive will now only remove a single debuff, not all debuffs. Will you lose your progress and launch? Yes. Fortitude has been replaced with Invigorating Bulwark. This passive will grant 15 stamina on hit with a Shield Bash and Shield Rush abilities. That is awesome. That is very, very awesome. That is actually amazing. Anything that gives you stamina when you're out of stamina means a dodge. That means both of your shield abilities gives you an extra dodge. Or if you use those while and then going right back to block, then you've got 30% more stamina. Very, very cool. Both for PvP, for PvE, aggressiveness, amazing passive. But this is what I'm more happy to mess around with. I love Sword and Board, and it's amazing in PvP, or was. Now with all the different weapons, everything. Leaping Strike, I couldn't hit a Leaping Strike for the life of me. The startup frames have been reduced. Hopefully that means we'll be able to hit our target. And the distance has been increased. Hopefully that means we can hit our target. So now it goes faster, goes further. Leaping Strike was amazing. In so many ways, for so many reasons. It was unusable last phase. Hopefully it can be used again. Counterattack has been modified to be able to stack and obtain a better bonus. Now grants 3% in power for 5 seconds when blocking an attack, and can stack up to 5 times for a maximum of 15% bonus in power. Previously, it would grant 10% for 20% after. Well, actually, I liked the previous because it was 20 seconds. I only have to block once to get a 20-second in power. Yes. Now, this is something you have to block all the time, or a bunch of hits at once to get a bigger bonus damage. So for PvE, blocking a bunch of things, you're going to hit that. You're going to get more damage in PvE, but less viable in PvP. Life Staff. Sacred Protection passive is changed to grant 5% increase in income and healing efficiency to all group members, used to grant additional max HP. So no longer will it give max HP, but you'll get more healing. Reduced effectiveness of Orb of Protection Fortify from 15 to 10%. That's all they did to Life Staff. Okay. Berserk duration on the hatchet's been reduced to 12 seconds, and the cooldown has been increased to 18 seconds. Berserking Refresh now heals for 10% every 4 seconds, while Berserk is active to a maximum of 30% health. Before, it was every 5 seconds for 35. So we lost 1 tick, basically, it seems. Great Axe reduced the effectiveness of Gravity Well Fortify from 15 to 10%. So they're trying to take away all the fortifies. The Bow, reduce effectiveness of Bow, Unbreakable Focus Fortify from 20% to 10%. Okay, so again, more Fortify. Chain perks reduce the number of times the chain perk to another target from 5 to 3. So you only hit 3 targets, and the chain elemental perks now only trigger off basic attacks. Equip loads, the 20% damage increase for light equip load, and the 10% damage for medium equip load should also affect healing output of the character. Healing is reduced by 20% to account for this. We want the best healer to be in light gear. Reduce medium equip load threshold from 15 to 13, and heavy from 30 to 23. Which means you cannot wear as many heavy pieces. We used to be able to wear 4 pieces of heavy and 1 piece of medium and be in medium. Now we're going to have to wear 1 piece of heavy and 4 pieces of medium to stay in medium. Or, well, math needs to be done. But it was the chest is now, here it goes right here. Slightly increased armor granted, we'll go over it. Normalize the weight of protection ratios, physical elemental balanced within each armor class. Each increase the armor provided by chest pieces and reduce the amount provided by helmets. So helmets are now in line with gloves and boots, while the chest pieces is the juicy, it seems to be like 2.5 times the amount. Slightly increase the armor granted by balance ratios to match the total armor provided by physical and elemental ratios. Reduce the weight of round and kite shields. Okay. Housing trophies reduced. We're seeing a lot of reductions. Reduced damage bonus against creature families. It was 10%, so you used to be able to get a 30% damage bonus versus corrupted if you had 1 in each house. Now you're going to get a total of 15% damage bonus with the best one in all 3. Of Empower and Fortify buffs. Potions will now be included in clamping of Empower and Fortify, up to a maximum of 50%. What? I'm not familiar with what potion gave Fortify, but now it's the case. So no matter what, the most Empower you can get, the most Fortify you can get is 50%. And that's important to remember when creating your build. Elemental damage consumables updated duration from 3 minutes to 30 seconds. Updated the effect of consumables from 25 to 15. Okay, so nerfed, fatty nerf. Creature family absorption consumables. So these are to reduce your damage from the different enemy types. Duration from 5 minutes to 20 seconds. Amount of hits players can take from 20 to 15. So again, a nerf. Updated the effect of creature family consumables from 50% to 15. Said all absorption consumables to have a 120-second shared cooldown. Oh man, huge nerf on all the consumables. Okay. Oak Flesh Balm and Gemstone Dust consumables have been from 5 minutes to 30 seconds. The amount of hits players can take when using them down, looks like what, about 15%, or from 20 to 15. We're just going off of the top end stuff for now. Increase the effect. Oh, but increase the effect. Alright, so that's fine, right? It doesn't last as long, but it does more than double. Okay. Siege turrets, so this is important. Increase explosive cannon damage by 30%. So what we do basically is we always go repeaters right off the bat. Repeaters are just insane. Capped repeater max damage fall off at 90% instead of 100. But I've always liked explosive cannon damage. Now it's increased by 30%. Repeater damage fall off now starts at 80 meters instead of 60. So, but repeaters are buffed. Siege weapon damage is now being mitigated by armor. but their damage is increased. So the thing is, when people are not level 60, right, we're still level 40, we don't have that high of armor, not everyone's in level 60 heavy armor, right? These repeaters, they've got great range, and they just rip apart all lobies. So if you get repeaters and you level them up, and right away trying to defend a town, you're just going to destroy everything, right? Explosive cannons, though, have a huge buff. Plus the 20% there. But it's mitigated by armor. So that means heavy armor dudes might be able to deal with it a little bit better. Reduce effectiveness of Arcane Blessing lifestyle buff. Corrupted enemy absorption from 20% to 5. So a lot less damage versus corrupted. That's 15%. That's a lot. Perks. Fortified recovery effectiveness reduced from 30% to 10. Keenly fortified effectiveness from 30% to 10. And mortal fortification effectiveness reduced from 30 to 10. Again, trying to really... There are ways to be at 50%. I was at 50% fortify all the time, right? While using a battle axe, standing and healing. So they're trying to reduce the amount of fortify that you can have. They did nerf healing potions. The percentage of max health from 15 to 7. But they've increased the base amount by 600. 40 on the low end, 600 on the top end, but less percentage. Increased base health regeneration, so more base regen. You'll probably be using the tier 3s, right? More likely. So it's not bad. 90 tick instead of 65. And then again, half it based on the HP. Endurance potions are no longer in the game. Amber gems reduced the damage scaling obtained from amber gems when putting attributes into focus by 20%. To make healer's secondary weapon a bit less powerful in terms of raw damage output for focus builds. That's fine, because I'm not a focus build. I'm a strength focus build. So this means those that go pure focus, you're not going to do as much damage. This doesn't affect our version of the Omni Paladin build. It does, but a lot less. Because we go a lot of strength and a decent amount of focus. Healing is reduced by 20%. The conversion is reduced by 20%. But more than half of our damage is from strength anyways. So I think our version of the build is going to be just fine. Attribute threshold bonuses. Adjusted the strength 50, 100, and 150 attribute threshold bonuses to prevent damage bonus from being applied to elemental melee attacks. It will only apply to physical damage. This is to prevent doubling up on bonuses when using elemental conversion. Hold on. Okay, that's fine. These are just the perks, not the actual attributes, right? To elemental melee attacks. So it only affects the melee side of things, but not the elemental conversion, okay? Small deployables like infernal traps and powder kegs now have a shared deployment limit of 15 per team. Interesting. And then here are all of the bug fixes. We'll go over them. Move speed increases. Fixes where players have a permanent speed buff applied. Yep, we saw that on the last day. Fixed issues where move speed could not be slowed by more than 10%. Stuck on load screen. Fixed issues where players can get stuck in infinite load screen. That's always good to fix. Life staff. Speed of light upgrade now functions. Good. I love the speed of light. If it is the beacon of light that gives speed, this is what I want. Jump. You are now able to jump while in exhausted state. You played the first beta too? Oh, nice. Cool, cool. Attribute threshold bonus. 250 con. Bonus should now have a 60-second cooldown. Good. People run killable. Threshold on con. 150 should now only reduce damage from critical hits, not all hits. Okay. Con builds were very, very strong, but they didn't do very much damage, right? Rewards from duels. Players should no longer be able to get PvP rewards from duels. I did hear people were power leveling using duels somehow. Sword leadership passive will no longer persist after leaving group. That's pretty crazy that it did or didn't. Mending touch no longer removes all debuffs. Only one. Magnify ultimate now extends buff duration. Inspire will now increase stamina. Did not before. Okay. Great Axe, the heavy pull passive no longer causes an additional attack. Man, was this just broken. Right? Crazy, crazy, crazy. Enduring Strike will now reduce damage by 20% while in crit. Bow, Deep Strike upgrade will only increase damage on penetrating shot, not all attacks. Swap weapons. When using swap active weapon keybind, your weapon ability will now toggle. Nice. Good. Because it wouldn't. Sometimes you wouldn't see your cooldowns. Sword, when using contagious reverse stab, damage over time attacks that are transferred to the other player will now cause damage. Okay, so it didn't before. Fix an issue with falling. Encumbered navigation. Fit to jittery navigation animations. Okay. Darkness events. Hardy perk. Fixed a bug that would cause you to not be able to block or dodge. Oh, was it the Hardy perk? Yeah, that was terrible. Man, what a terrible life that was. You couldn't block or dodge, and you had to die to get that fixed. I forgot about that. Man, I'm glad they fixed that. That was so terrible. In the middle of a dungeon, I was the tank, and I could not block or dodge. So we just auto-attacked, and it was fine. But, man, added Tier 4 and Tier 5 Azoth stabs to be unlocked in the main story quest. Okay, now you need those to do the 50 breaches and the Tier 5 to do the endgame breaches. Okay, reduce XP from town projects by 25% for raw materials, refined materials by 30%, crafting ornaments turned by 50%, and provisions by 50%. So raw turn-ins are better now? I still like these just because it helps me level those skills, and I think that's just awesome. But 50% reduction. But it was needed. It was needed. XP required to level at lower levels has been reduced. XP required to level from 2030 has been reduced. Very nice. And reduce the faction granted per mission for PvP missions to account for their shorter travel times. Oh, interesting. So based on travel times, the faction points have been modified. Very cool. This actually may then be good. If this is the case, then places like Reekwater, because you have to go so far, if you were to level up Reekwater and put all your points into increasing the amount of faction tokens you get, could result in a very, very large amount for a, per full turn-in. So that could end up being a strategy used endgame. We went over that. Rewards. Increase the drop rate of named items from expedition bosses. Cool. More like an MMO. We can get more loots from the bosses. Adjusted the perks on many named weapons in an effort to better distribute perks of perk availability on named weapons while making more of them feel unique and well synergized. Normalize the perks on all faction weapons and armor. This change made low-level faction armor give crit damage, defense instead of cooldown reduction. And it made the Covenant the worst faction in the game. Because the Purple People Eaters had amazing faction perks. The Green Boys had like really good faction perks. And in Covenant was just terrible. But so that's no longer the case. Increase the cost of all faction armor and weapons. They did by a lot. Remove. So we're gonna have to be doing the faction mission cycle a lot more to get our full set. Which we only have 2 pieces of our blue quality set. Because it costs so much, we got to go run it a couple more times, which we will do soon. Removed socketed gems from all faction armor. That's what made them amazing. They still have the sockets, but now you got to put them in, which means now we run without sockets. Maybe till like tier 4, you know, when we have a lot more gems. Gem cutting is now more available, right? But for these first tier 2, tier 3 ones, we're not going to have the gems cut to put them in. At least not for day 1, right? Reduce gear score from tier 4, from 495 to 490, not that big of a deal. But from tier 5, from 550 to 535. Again, not that crazy. The 550 was just so good. And we're still going to do the 535s until we start getting better. We start working on our watermark. Equipment visuals have been changed. The Warkite Shield and Vengeful War Spear icons fixed for various weapons. A bunch more of notable bug fixes. The final stint here. Many named items had a duplicate or otherwise incompatible perks have been updated. Okay, there were a couple of weapons or armor pieces, you know, like a sword that had a perk for another weapon, or a shield that had keenly jagged, possibly, things like this. So interesting. Fix an issue that was causing some very low level items to roll with perks, which could cause players to get green items that weren't special in any way. I saw that often. I just thought that it got its attributes. It was actually an issue. Fix an issue that could cause fishing hotspot locations to be visually cold, which could make them exceptionally difficult to find. Updated the logic for teleporting players away from faction control points, so it should allow more people from each faction to participate. Good, that was terrible. They're referring to all of the forts. More people can participate in the forts. Thank you. Fix an infinite loading wheel that would occur when you tried to purchase something from the trade post. Cool. Fix an issue that could cause a significant increase to influence gain for attacking factions after 72 hours. Not familiar with this. This increase is still present, but has been reduced by 50%. Fix an issue that was causing invites to Outpost Rush to not time out correctly, which was causing them to still be considered part of the invited group. Fix an issue that could cause boss drops in an expedition to roll far outside their appropriate gear score range. Interesting. Fix an issue that made it possible for players to trade directly with each other over a long distance by fast traveling in the middle of a trade. Interesting. Fix a number of exploits with gold, item trading, and duplication. Fucking dupers. You know, there's gotta be dupers everywhere. Exploits with gold, item trading, duping. That's something that is going to constantly be an issue in all games. Not just this game, since Diablo 2 and well before, right? Always an issue. Hopefully they're able to tackle it. Hopefully there's proper enforcement, so that we can have a relatively clean game. Fix an issue that was causing some named items to not drop in expeditions. One of them, I never saw the sword. I ran so many. I saw every single version of a lot of weapons, but never a version of that legendary sword with crit. So hopefully that one's now in the loophole. Fix an issue where players could get stuck in lag detected states. We had that a couple of times. Fix a conflict where between queuing for war and playing in an expedition where players could be pulled out of the expedition. Fix an issue where fibers were giving tier 3 rewards instead of tier 2. Cool. Fixed some issues with seals not working with all faction armors. Okay. Removed a note about war camp gate strength, because war camp gate strengths are indestructible. Okay. Added a limit to the number of inferno traps that can be deployed, now a maximum of 15. Fixed an issue that could cause attacker turrets to be destroyed in one hit while they were mid-upgrade. Fixed an issue where dying as a war resolved could cause a player to enter a state where they were unable to interact with the game. That's never fun. Fix an issue where the attacker cannons could not be attacked while in a great state. So they can't be one-shot, but they can still be attacked. Fix an issue where the war sign-up board didn't display the correct times for players. Fix an issue where players could spawn outside of the fort before a war started. And that was with the respawn. Added collision to the roof of the war camp. Okay. Fix an issue with ebb and scale reach war camp where defenders could get in using some nearby geometry. Fix an issue where there was causing the vertical beams to capture points to be invisible during war. Where war invites were being sent out too early. Fix an issue that caused players to enter an unresponsive state. Okay. Fix an issue where siege weapon damage wasn't being mitigated by armor. It now does. Where rally points are lit up outside of the war. And defenders are no longer able to climb over the walls. What? I thought that was intended. We can't go grief them anymore. Ripperoni. The things that they didn't mention, which is very, very important, is your camp. When you set your camp, you can no longer spawn on it if you're over 500 meters away, and we can no longer death spawn. So our strategy of setting our camp right here, where is it? Right here, and death spawning around, we can no longer do that, which is a good thing, but also sad to see it gone. But so we've gone through all the changes.